Good morning, kids. So, we're working on Yogi today. So this is the second bear I've gotten in this year. We're going to go ahead and do a video on skinning this girl out and getting it all set for the cooler. The customer is going to be getting a rug made out of this. So what I like to do, no matter what they're getting taxidermy-wise out of bears, is I always kind of cape them out. I leave the skull in the hide. That way the taxidermist can do with it what it wants. I have no issue doing all that, but once again, I'm the butcher. I am not a fine technician when it comes to tanning or breaking down hides. I'm fairly good at it, but I'd rather have somebody who's going to be doing the real work on that do all that. So I'm going to show you how to keep these out. Bears are a lot of people ask me the difference of cutting up bears as opposed to something else. The best thing I could compare it to is breaking down bears is a lot like breaking down pigs. Their body structure is very similar to how they're built and honestly how you cook them. For those who don't know, bears are one of the animals that carry trichinosis, which is a parasite that if you consume it, you will also get trichinosis. And it feels like a bad flu, hits all your joints, and then you have just parasites in your joints for the rest of your life. Not super fun, also not crazy big deal. But you have to cook it to 165 degrees. You got to cook it a lot like pork. You can't put some tenderloins on the grill and cook them medium rare because you're not going to have a good time. So we're just going to kind of talk about that while I'm going through. This bear was shot last night, and I'm starting to believe Al Gore a little more because it was 90 degrees yesterday. Gotta love September in New England. So this was packed with ice all last night, so you can see it's a little flushed out, not a big deal. This was a bit of a paunch shot, so they did get the guts a little bit. They did a really good job of cleaning it out. There's still a little bit of gunk in there. We're going to go ahead and wipe it down, get it trimmed up a little bit before we get it in the cooler. The majority of bear customers that I deal with do a lot of sausage. It just kind of is what it is. It's part of the game. Because again, you're not going to be able to do medium rare cuts and roasts and stuff like that. I do have a lot of customers that do save hams. They'll make hams out of them. Roast them whole. This customer's getting both shoulders done up. And I love the look of bear shoulder roasts. They just look really nice. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get situated a little bit. Try not to slip on the puddles that are forming underneath it. We drained her out before we brought her in, but she's still dripping quite a bit. She had a couple 100 pounds of ice on her in the past 12 hours. So she's fairly waterlogged, but I'm going to get going on this, and we'll see you guys in a second. All right, so I'm going to start breaking her down like I would anything else, and we're going to make our incision cuts up these legs. So the main difference about how we're going to break her down or skin her out is if I was to be doing a pig, a cow, a sheep, I would continue this incision right here all the way down to the chin. But again, they are going to be taking this to a taxidermist to get a rug done. But this is also, it's for a younger girl who shot it. It's her first bear. I don't know if they're going to be doing a mount out of it. They might decide at the end. So we're going to do the due diligence and make it so they can do whatever they need to do. So we are going to come over here, open this up. And like I said, this was gutted in the field. They rinsed it out when they got it home. And but it's still a little gunky, which it is what it is, to be expected. So you're going to make this incision cut right up to the ankle. I'm going to come over here. We will do the same thing. This is a bit of a smaller sow. The hunter did say there was a little bit of an older cub with her. We do get some decent sized bears up here. The past couple I've gotten in already this year have been a bit small, but it is what it is. She'll probably dress out about 90-ish pounds, right under 100. So I used my new 4-inch skinner on the last bear I did, and I freaking loved it. So I'm very happy. I think this is going to be a really nice game, wild game season with this. You have to be, again, because this customer is getting the hide done, I have to be extremely careful not to puncture the hide. It's not a massive deal. Most taxidermists worth their salt are able to patch that pretty quick because they're used to people processing it themselves. I've actually gotten a lot of good reviews from my customers' taxidermists on getting stuff spun out. Saves them some time with stuff. So, like I said, we're just going to go around as usual, open everything up. I'm going to open up around this leg. So, when doing this, I keep the feet in the actual hide. So you can see where that joint's going to be. And I'm just going to open it up like I would anything else. Get a little bit of a better angle on it. All right, that's opened up. Perfect. I've said it a bunch of times, but again, I've got a platform, so I'll say it again. Leverage. Leverage is your main thing. As you can see, I had a decent cut. I had this joint opened up. A bear's foot is going to move this way. If you open up that joint, cut some of the tendons, and put downward pressure, it will open up that joint. So I do not hang bears from their tendons, and that's just that's just how I do it. I run a rope through the pelvis, and that is how I hang my bears. Makes life a little bit easier. All right, so that one is open. I'll pop over here. This time of year, bear hides are a little thin. She doesn't have a huge fat cap on her. I haven't gotten to the back yet, but from what I'm seeing, she's not going to be the fattiest bear in the world. As you can, let's see if you can see it. We'll angle you down a little bit. As you can see the hair follicles coming through on the hide right here. Their hide is fairly thin. So again, I'm being very, very cautious of the amount of pressure I'm putting on it because I do not want to puncture the hide. All right. I'm going to try and position you a little bit better. Smooth move, Kyle. Turned off the camera. Okay. So now you're angled a little bit better so you can see what I'm doing. We'll open this up a little bit. You can see, hopefully, you can see these tendons that are running up. And they all connect right here at this point. So I'm going to score that. We'll come on this side. Score that and open up this joint. If you need to use your leg for added pressure, you can. All right. As you can see, like I said, I'm being a lot more gentle with how I would usually be. All right, let's reposition you again. All right. Now the back legs are opened up. What we are going to do is just kind of finish cleaning up. They didn't do a fantastic job of bunging it out, but I know this was kind of a learning experience for the kid that was doing it. Not going to give him too much of a hard time over it. So the majority of the time, especially if I'm working with seasoned hunters, and this is something that has been new over the past couple of years as my business has picked up, I will charge for if the animal is not cleaned right. It is one of those scenarios where you are entrusting me to take care of your animal that you shot. I expect that those people will do the due diligence to give me a good product to work with. I will not be blamed for off-tasting meat if it is not my fault that it's happened. And I think that is important for processors. We get blamed for gaminess. We get blamed for a whole bunch of stuff that can be attributed to poor field handling. All right. Pulled that bung out. I'm going to go ahead and rinse off for a second. Beautiful. And we're back. So, what I do, I toss a rope through the pelvis here. I mentioned that I consider bears very similar to pigs. If this was like a 300-pound boar, I would even go as far as to split this much like a pig. So we've got the scale already on, and we're going to skin this girl out in stages, just like I do everything else. All right, so we got her up. Let's go ahead and pop it back a little bit. All right, perfect. So, as you can see, both feet are off. Another nice thing about having the feet off like this is it adds weight. So I'm not going to be pulling down as much, but when I do need to pull down, I do have a leverage point that I'm able to put pressure down on. I have talked to a couple different taxidermists, and from my experience, they would rather have a little bit of extra fat and meat left on the hide, which is drastically different from when I was doing taxidermy. I was doing the European mounts, which is the skull mounts, which if you follow the channel for a bit, we got a couple of videos on that. I think I'm actually going to be pulling my boar skull out in the next couple days to finish getting that cleaned up, so I'm not dealing with it over the winter. It's been in there for in the acetone for a couple months. Checked on it the other day, and it looks really good. So the purpose of that is, like I said, they would much rather take a little time and clean the excess meat and fat off, doing whatever they do to get that done with the tanning process, than they would sewing up the hide and having it be not as structurally strong in certain sections. All right. So now we got both legs done up. I do try to keep as much fat on the bear as possible. Bear fat is an amazing resource. I will usually talk with most of my hunters, and it's honestly a bit of a shock to me how many people do not utilize the bear lard. It has a very high melt point and can be used for a ton of different stuff. I use it for cooking. I don't mind the taste. It does have a bit of a different taste to it, but I don't really mind it. But I've used bear fat I've used it for waterproofing boots. You can waterproof leather with it. I've also used it as not as much of a gun cleaner, but a gun polish. After you've gone through with your regular cleaner and cleaned the gun, it's a good exterior polish on it. It stays on fairly well. Go ahead and feel it out for a second. Oh. All right. What I'm going to do is pause you for a second, clean up this floor a little bit, and we'll be right back. All right, so we're back. We still got some water dripping, but nothing I'm going to slip on. All right, so we got the back leg spun out. Now we're going to work on tearing down the rest of this hide. I kept the tail on. Again, we're making a rug, want to keep everything on there. I did that by separating in between the tailbone there, right at the base. So now I'm just going to go through and work this down. As you can see, it's a bit dirty from the incision cut. Like I said, it was paunched a little bit. So you'll run into stuff like this, like especially where an animal was shot and there was stomach hit. So this is actually in between the meat and the hide. You can tell she was eating acorns, stuff like that. So we will go through after the fact and just kind of clean her up a little bit more. But right now we're going to get the brunt of the work done. All right, so now we got this scun down to the shoulders. So I've only seen this once or twice before, but this bear actually has a decent amount of fly eggs on her hide. I'm no biologist, but what I have heard is some of that is from if they're scavenging off a bunch of carcasses or something like that, they get the blood and stuff in their hide, and that attracts flies, and it is what it is. It's not going to affect your meat. Again, you just want to make sure you do everything as clean as possible. So this is where kind of the tricky part is. So like I said, I'm going to be doing this up as if it's going to be caped or full like shoulder mount. I don't want to make the incisions here. That's going to make a hell of a mess for the taxidermist. So as you can see, I'm continuing down the shoulders, and as I go, I'm pulling the hide that is around the arms over. It's very similar to how I do pigs and cows. The only difference being I'm going to sleeve these arms and pop the whole joint. It is a little more tedious, but in the end, it's worth it for the customer. So you can, it doesn't all have to be knife work. I even highly suggest it not being like knife work. Get your fingers in there, move stuff around, loosen it up, because in the end, it'll make your life easier, and you won't be nicking the hide. I already see a couple spots where I've nicked it a little bit. It's not going to be the end of the world. Be very quick, easy fixes. What you don't want is giant gouges. A couple nicks here and there, or 1 or 2 stitches. It's not going to be that big of a deal. I'm going to continue down towards the head. Stretch that down. And like I said, I'm going to be keeping the skull in the hide, and I will let the taxidermist do that real finish work. All right, so as you can see, base of the skull is going to be right here. We're going to try and loosen a little bit more of this up. I will extend this cut a little bit, not too much, and that way I'm able to stretch this hide out a little bit more. Once you get it over the elbow, you're pretty golden, but it's just getting to that point. Am I the fastest skinner in the world? No. Am I faster than most people? Probably. And that's kind of where I'm happy with. I would much rather be known as the guy who puts out, as I say, good quality, put a big old gouge in it, who puts out better quality product than, hey, look how fast I can do this. That being said, there will definitely be some videos of, hey, how fast can I skin this deer coming this fall? Because that's always fun. All right, so as you can see, there's the elbow on it. My main step next is to open this up around it. So we'll go ahead and spin this so you can see it a little bit better. And I'm seeing daylight. Or should I say fluorescent light? Again, do not be afraid to get your hands in here and stretch some stuff out. It will make your life easier and it will give you a better product. All right, I'm going to go ahead. It's a game of back and forth because I'm not going to be able to get, you can see how tight this is. I'm not going to be able to get any further on this side until I get this side to the same spot. So we're going to move over this way and do the same thing. All right, so as you can see, I got these past the elbows and we got the hide at the base of the skull. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull the head off because as you can see, everything's kind of tight at the moment. So I need a little bit of relief to get these legs off. So what we're going to do, spin her around. Once you get here, you can see obviously this is the neck. And once it starts widening out, this is going to be where your skull is. So you can get your hand in there, you can feel the base of the skull. I'm going to make a cut right here. Use the hide as kind of a hook. And what you are aiming for is the same thing you're aiming for on every animal. You're aiming for the atlas bone. The atlas bone is where the skull sits in the actual spine of the animal. All right. All right, there we go. I always describe bears as having extra bones. It's not true. But what they do have is, all right, so that's done. What they do have that I find is they have the same bones, but like on the shoulder blade, instead of it just being fairly flat and having slight ridging, most bears I've dealt with, the shoulder blades will actually come up around the actual meat that's in the shoulder. Like you're just boning around a ton of different stuff. So it's kind of comes with the fun of them, but it is what it is. So I'm just going to readjust this. Get her up as high as we can go. All right, head's removed. Now we've got these legs to finish up. Again, your goal is to not cut through the hide. So just using the tip of your blade, you're just going to loosen up as you go down. Pulling as you do. There's another benefit of having all this hide hang down is it's also adding weight as you go down. It's all right if you nick the meat a little bit. And this is very different from, not very different, but it's different in the aspect of doing livestock, because when you're doing livestock, the not profitable. The important part is the meat itself. Obviously, the meat is very important on this bear, but what else is important is the hide, because like I said, this is a young girl's first deer or first bear. She wants to get it mounted, and in my opinion, it's got to be perfect. So, is it annoying sometimes doing all this extra skinning to make sure you get a perfect product? Sure. But is it worth it? Every day. Almost there. And we got one off. So, and we will just do the same thing. I have switched to the straight blade for this because the important part is how much of the blade is actually hitting the hide. For the same reason that this works way better than this on skinning out the sides, this will work way better than this on doing fine cuts like this. To try and get right in here with this, you're dealing with that much blade. When you're doing it with this, you're dealing with, you can put that much of the blade on the actual hide itself. So we are just going to keep pulling her down. Again, the weight of the hide is helping me. You do want to be careful, obviously, not to have the claws puncture the hide as well. You don't want to go through all this trouble and have the claws punch through on you. All right. Now she's spun out. I'm going to stick this over here for a minute. Almost lost you there for a second. All right, so now we're just going to kind of go through this guy, or gal, sorry. There I am misgendering again. It's 2023, Kyle. Get with it. I'm just going to kind of go through. As you can see, there's leaves and hair. There's some bloodshot on here. We'll get a hang weight on this. 73 pounds. So again, not a huge sow, but it'll come out decent. So we're just going to go through. In situations like this, I've explained it on other slaughters before, it is safer and cleaner to go through and cut the dirt off. This being because, especially where this girl was sitting on ice overnight. A lot of the meat is little bit waterlogged, so everything that's on there is stuck on there. You're not going to be able to spray it off or wipe it off. Along with, I don't have floor drains in here, and I wasn't going to get the tractor going for this girl. Some stuff I will just keep, and when it comes down to it, to process it, I will go through and just cut around it. I don't go through every single rib of an animal on wild game. In the end, you're spending an exorbitant amount of time for a limited supply of meat. I explain this to all of my customers because I'm going to be honest. But to me, what you put into it is almost not worth it. So that's cleaned up a little bit better. After I do this, we're going to go ahead and do the old paper towel on it. My favorite trick of all time. I've got a little gunk here on the tenderloins. That's not awful. I am going to go ahead and just leave that on and wait until this is chilled down more and I can really get in there and cut off everything I need. So like I said, there is some hair still kicking around on her, which is to be expected. So we're going to take a paper towel. And for those who are wondering, this bear was shot twice with a 7mm. Because I know someone's going to be asking in the comments. So it was a 7mm that shot this bear. Obviously, entry, exit. I don't know if she hit on the second. Does not look like it. But real good shot. Like I said, it did paunch a little bit, but they did a good job of cleaning out what they could in the field. And we've done our job and cleaned out what we can here. All right, kids. So we'll angle that up a little bit so you see the whole thing. So there we got a nice little sow. She will eat real nice. Again, the customer's getting majority sausage out of this. We're going to get some shoulder roasts. We'll pop the tenderloins out, and we will also get the back straps out. None of this fat is worth saving. Again, you can see how kind of sinewy it is. I only save bear fat when you got at least an inch where you're really pulling the fat off. Bears, I consider it in the same vein of wild game fat as venison, although it is very different. Venison fat is not good for your meat because it gets waxy. It'll get waxy in your mouth. If you've ever untrimmed a venison steak and eaten it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Bears are just greasy. In New Hampshire, we're able to bait, and it's a little different than other places where we're not able to bait before the season. We have to wait till the season starts, lay our bait out. But if you have somebody that's been baiting for a long time with a bear in the area and they're pouring in used vegetable fry oil and everything else, all of that flavor is going to be right here in the fat. So it is also important to think about when you are baiting. You are what you eat. So if you're really putting some crap in that bait pile, it's not going to be great. Same as feeding cows and doing all that. They are what you eat. So, but I'm going to go ahead. We'll get this girl in the cooler. and then I'll go ahead and spread out that hide and kind of give you a better look of what we actually do there. All right, so as you can see, I got her laid out. This is a fairly good job. This is my first cape of the year, so it's going to be a little rusty. As you can see, front legs are all sleeved out. We put the leg back through. Skull is still intact. And if you look at the back, those ones are open. So this is kind of a quick, dirty way to get it done. Here's the customer's tag. We'll make sure that stays with it. And we have the tag for the fishing game as well. Up in New Hampshire, they actually, I'm not sure if they do it in other parts of the country, you have to get bears tagged in with an official game officer, and they will actually take one of the teeth out for genetic testing, stuff like that. So I promise we do get some bigger bears. For this girl's first bear, I think it's a great one. It'll eat really well. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead, get this girl rolled up, tossed in the freezer, and we're just going to get going with the day. So I hope you guys appreciated the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, learned a couple things. I don't know if I'm going to be doing a breakdown video on her or not, but if we do, we'll see you next time.